Hello everyone, my name is Harsh and welcome to today's session for Flutter 101 Bootcamp. In today's session, we will be seeing how we can work and make a TODO app inside Flutter. So this is the basic app which we will be making throughout this session. So when you will be clicking on completed items button, you will be taken to a next screen which will be displaying all the items which you have completed. All the items are stored in the form of a database, and I have taught you how you can create or how you can work with persistence database, that is SQLite in Flutter, in previous session. So if you haven't checked it out till now, make sure to check it out, and then you will be able to get the components of this session quickly. So these are stored in two different tables. So the first table will be having all the items which are to be done, and the second table will be storing all the items which are being completed. So this item is already completed, so it is being displayed here. Next we have this plus icon here on the top in the actions bar. So when I click on this icon, it will be enabling a text field over here, and in this text field I can type whatever I want. So I'll type task 2 over here, and when I type task 2 over here and when I click on this button, floating action button, it will be adding a task inside this application. So when this task is added inside the application, I have two different options which I can perform with this task. I can either edit this task or I can either delete this task. When I will be deleting this task, it will be added inside the complete item table and will be displayed inside the complete item screen. So let me edit it for now. And so now you can see that the text field text has also been changed. So it is now saying that enter text to replace. So in place of task 2, I want to add this is task 2, and when I click on this button, it will be updating that this is task 2 in place of task 2. When I click on this delete button, this task will be deleted from this particular screen and it will be coming inside or being displayed inside the completed task screen. So this is the basic app which we will be creating. I also have two more screens, like one is the about the developer screen, and inside it I have implemented the URL handler or the URL opener part. So we won't be seeing this part in this session, but yeah, you can also implement this part as well. So let's start working on the particular part of our application. So let's start working on our today's application. So the first thing which I have added here is a database helper class. So these all things I have taught you in yesterday's session. So I guess if you have watched the previous video or previous session, you must be familiar with all the things. The only change which we are making to the database helper.dart file here is that we are adding another table inside it, and that table will be having one or two fields extra, one or two columns extra, and rest all the things will be remaining same. So let me walk you through this particular components of this database helper file. So the first thing which we have here is the database name. So this is the name of the database which we have provided. We have also provided the version of database. We have two tables named as my table and completed items. Next we have some column ID, column name, and these column 2 name and column 3 name are for the two different columns which we are having inside our this tables. Next we have this private constructor. So this constructor will be making the class private. So we have initialized the private constructor inside it. Next we have made the instance of this database helper class. So we have initialized the instance in this instance variable. Next I have initialized the database type of variable which is underscore database, so making it as private. And then we are getting the database. So we'll be, whenever this file will be loading or when this app will be loading, it will be running this get database function, and it will be checking if the database value is set to null, and if it is set to null, so it will be not returning this, and if it is not set to null, then it will be returning this, and the conditions will be executing by the check of the code which we have edited inside it. Next we have that initiate database. So this is of type async, as the components which will be used inside this takes some time for being completed. So we have added async over here so that the app does not feels like it has stuck or it is freezing. We have added a directory over here so that we can get the directory of a particular application or the directory where we want the database to be stored. And then we have printed the directory by adding the database name inside it. So it will make the path of that directory or of that particular database which will be stored inside it. Next we have this open database. So this open database is for opening the database inside for this particular application. So it will be opening the database. We have passed the path of the database to it. We have also passed the Oncreate function. So if the database is not there, so it will be creating the database by executing this particular these many commands inside the what we can say the database, so that the database can be created. And then we can pass the things which are present inside the database. We have also passed the version of the database, so that we can identify what version or on what instance the database is currently on. So let's see inside the Oncreate. So for the Oncreate function, we will be like running these two commands. The first one will be for creating the table 1, the second one will be for creating the table 2. We'll be mostly having all the fields or all the columns will mostly be the same. So we have column ID, column name, column 2 over here. These three columns are also here, but we have a column 3 which is different. So you can see that the name of these column name, column name 2, column name 3 are already being defined above. So we have passed through the $sign or through a variable over in this command. Next we have 4 different functions for inserting, querying, updating and deleting the components or deleting the fields inside our database. So this was already explained, or this was already made explained to you in the yesterday's session. So I have explained it in very deep in yesterday's session, so make sure to check it out for more info on these particular 4 different things or 4 different functions. So insert will be inserting a particular item inside our database. This query all will be querying the particular fields which will be matching the query parameters and will be returning a type of list which will be having a map of string and dynamics. Next we have an update which will be updating a particular field or particular data which we want the app to be updated. And we have delete as well, which will be deleting the component or which will be deleting the particular fields which we want the app to delete. So these are all the things which a database helper file is having. Now let's move toward the main.dart file. So currently our app looks somewhat like this. So we have an app bar over here. So you can see that we have an app bar over here. I have also initialized the actions, but I have not passed anything inside it. So we need to pass actions inside it as well. And apart from it, we have a floating action button which says that show me the value. We'll be adding or we'll be saving the fields, the task inside our TODO app on the click of this particular button. And we have an init state which will be running this init state function or this init state method. So what this init state method will be doing is, whenever we'll be opening this app, so whenever this app will be running, first the main function will be running, then the my app class will be running, and through this my app class or through this material app, the my home page will be loaded. And when the my home page screen is loading, the first thing to be run is this init state, and this init state will be running this init function. And through this init function we will be querying all the data fields which are available inside the particular table. So if the database is not created only, so it will be creating the database, and then it will be querying all the things which are available inside this particular the first table, which is the table name stands for my table. And then we'll be setting the state of this query rows so that the query rows are updated dynamically. And we have this dispose here so that we can dispose all the things which we have initialized inside our application. So dispose is generally for freeing the extra memory or the memory which is being used inside our application. Now let's move towards the actions part of our application. So for the actions part, what I need to add is, so I'll be adding a padding inside this action. So here it is. Yeah, so inside it I'll be adding a padding. The padding will be having padding, which is an essential thing to be passed. Next we'll be having edge insets, and we'll be passing a padding of so only no, control Y and only, and we'll provide the padding from right of value 15. Next we'll pass a child to it. The child will be of type gesture detector. We'll have an on tap inside it. Apart from it, we'll be having a child inside it which will be of type icon. So it will be an add icon. adding some commas so that the typos may go away. It is providing us an error inside this padding, so we need to add this over here, and it may be missing and parentheses over here. And inside this padding, it is still showing us an error, padding not only right. And adding one more parenthesis over here. I guess one parenthesis more, so let me delete it. Yeah, so now the typos inside our application have gone away. So the icon will be displaying inside the section. So let the app hot reload, and then we'll be able to see the icon inside on this particular place inside our application. So what this icon will be doing is it will be setting or it will be changing the visibility of the text field which we will be having. So we have initialized various variable for it. So we have two different variable for like changing the visibility of the text field, for adding a new item inside our to-do app, or we have one more variable which is named as edit visibility. So it will be changing the visibility of the edit text field. So we have these two variables initialized inside our application. So let me change or let me alter the values of these particular visibilities when this particular button is being clicked. So here inside this gesture detector, what I'll do is I'll add set state, and inside this set state what I'll do is I'll set the value of edit visibility to false, and then I'll change the value of I'll check if the value of visible is equals to false. If it is true, then set the value of visible to true, else change the value of visible to false, and after it adding a semicolon for the set state. So this is the particular thing which will be taking place inside this on the click of this particular icon. Now let's move towards the body part of our app. So for the body part, the first thing which we are having is a column, and inside the column we'll be passing various different childs. So the first child which we'll be having is a padding. So the padding will be having edge insets dot only. So we'll be passing the padding from top of value 15 and from bottom of value 15 as well. Adding one more comma, we need to pass a child. So the child will be passed, won't be passed inside this, it is passed here, bottom. The child will be of a type gesture detector. So this will detector. So this will be for taking our the user to the next screen, which is the completed icon screen. So we'll be adding that in a while. For now, let's keep it empty, and we'll have a child as container. The container will be having a child as center, which will be having a child as a container again, and then we'll be passing some decoration inside it. Box decoration color will be set to colors.black, and we'll pass some shadow. So box shadow, it takes the value type of list, and inside it we'll pass box. It is showing an error, box shadow. So we haven't added a comma here, box shadow, and changing it to parentheses. We need to pass a color. The color will be equal to colors.gray. The blur radius will be equal to 3.0, and spread radius will be equal to 1, and we'll pass an offset. It will take a type of offset and with the values of 0, 1, adding a comma so that the formatting can take place in a better way. It is showing us an error here. I guess it is expecting another parenthesis over here, saving it. Now the padding has taken place a bit better. Now let's pass a border to this particular container. So I'll pass a border dot all, and inside it I'll add a width of 2, and color will be of colors dot black. Next we'll have a child inside this container, so let me get out this box decoration. Child will be of type container. Oh, I guess I need to add a padding and then a child of type text. Padding, and inside it padding edge insets dot all of value 8, and child of type text saying completed items having a text style inside it. Text style will be having a font size of 28 and color of colors dot blue, and font weight of font weight dot W500, adding some commas. Colors dot blue, saving it so that the typos go away and formatting can take place. So hot reload is being performed. Let's wait for it. Until it is being done, what we can do is we can move towards the text field. I guess it is completed. So you can see that the button is being displayed here. Now let's move towards the text field which was being displayed here. So we'll be checking the condition for that particular text field. So let me add some commas over here before moving towards the text field part. Now after this padding, we'll check if the value of edit visibility is equals to true. Then we'll have a widget of type padding, which will be having a padding edge insets dot all and value of 16, and then we'll have a child inside it which will be of type text field, and this text field will be having some decorations around it. So decoration will be of type input decoration, and we'll add an hint text to it. So the hint text generally takes a string. So hint text says enter text to replace. So it has made a typo over here. Let me correct it. Input decoration and hint text in place of it text. I'll add a controller as well. So what a controller is, so why do we use a controller inside a text field or text form field? So we can perform various different fields with this particular controller. So if we want the controller to delete our the text whenever a particular thing is performed inside our app, so we can do that by with the help of this controller. So let's save it. It is still showing me an error. It is expected an identifier. I guess it is expecting another widget over here. So let me add a container, as we have a widget condition being checked for displaying a particular widget. So let me save it. Let's wait for it to be displayed. What I was telling you about the controller. So if we are having a particular text which we want to delete, or we want the controller to we want this text field to get empty when a particular button is clicked, so we can add a controller inside a text field. So I'll add a controller, and I'll name it as my controller 2. So I have initialized a my controller 2 value over here. So it is of type text editing controller. and I also have another controller named as my controller, so we'll be using that controller for the text field which we'll be having inside our application. So it will be of similar type. Let me copy it from this, and after this container I'll add a comma, and in place of edit visibility, what I'll do is I'll add underscore visible, and we'll check if the value is equals to 2. Then we'll be providing a widget of type padding, which will be having a padding of 16 from all sides. It will be having a text field and with the decoration of in type input decoration with the text set to enter new item to add, and we'll have the controller set to my controller in place of my controller 2. And if this condition is not set to true, what I'll do is I'll remove this container. I'll add a padding inside it, so the padding will be of type padding. I'll pass HInsets dot all with the value of 9, adding some commas, and let it reformat the code. And after it I'll add a child of type container having a center widget with the text, and the text will be saying add new item by clicking on the plus icon or the plus button. So after this I need to add a child of type container which will be having a child of type center, which will be having a child of type text saying add new item by clicking on the plus button above, and adding some commas over here, saving it. Let's see if the text fields work or not. So let us wait for the code to hot reload. So now the code or the application has hot reloaded. When we click on this button, the new item text field is being displayed, and when we are clicking on it again, it is showing us this particular text, which is when the visible condition is not set to true. And whenever we will be like clicking on that added text or this added button, which will be appearing in along with the item or the to do item which we have added inside our application, then we will be displayed with an text field which will be saying that you can add the text which you want to replace. So this was for the text field part. Now the next thing which we need to add inside this particular widget tree or inside this particular column is an expanded widget. So now let's see how we can implement the expanded widget inside our application. So the first thing which we need to do is, after this padding, we need to add an expanded. So what an expanded do is, it allows or it provides whatever the space is left after rendering all the above widgets. So all the space which will be available will be provided to the widget which we are having inside the expanded. So we are having a container which will be having a list view builder, and this list view builder takes an item builder. So we'll be passing the context inside it with the index, and then we need to return something here. So let's keep it null as of now until we add some item count to it. So I'll add the item count. So the item count will be based on the query rows. So if the query rows is equals to null, so the item count will be remaining 0, else the item count will be equals to query rows dot length. So whatever the length of the rows are being queried, so it will be equal to the item count will be equal to that particular value. It is providing us with an error over here. It is expecting this. Let's see, it is expecting another brace. So now the errors have gone away. Let's save it. Now we need to return a particular widget inside it. So let's return a padding which will be having a padding inside it. It will be of type HInsets dot only, padding of 15 from left and right. And then we'll be having a child of type card inside it. The card will be having a column inside this, so we need to add a semicolon over here. The column will be having a some children's inside it. Let me add a semicolon so this error also goes away. Now inside this column we have to also assign the cross-axis alignment, and the value of this cross-axis alignment will be set to cross-axis alignment dot start. Inside the children we need to add a padding. The padding will be of all from of value 8, so padding edge insets dot all value of 8, and after this I need to add a child of type row, and we'll be having main axis alignment inside it, main axis alignment of type space between, and we'll be having some children's inside it as well, so children, and inside the children we'll be having flexible, so it will be providing the space available inside that particular row, and it will be like arranging the text whatever it is on the basis of the space which is available, like changing the lines, or like providing or sending the text to next line on the basis of this particular thing. We'll pass underscore query rows and index inside it, and then name. So we'll be getting the query rows, and then we'll be passing the index, and then we'll be displaying we'll be getting the value name out of that particular item or of that particular JSON, and then we'll be displaying that inside our application. Let me add max line, so the maximum amount of line to which this flexible can flex or take this text is 2. Adding some styles also, so text style, the color will be equal to colors dot red, and font size will be equal to 24, and I guess it is expecting some more thing over here, expected to find a parentheses. This is fixed. It is also expecting a parentheses. So now the errors have gone away and the formatting has also taken place. Now after this particular font size, or after this particular flexible, what we need to add is we need to add another row inside it. So let me add a row quickly, row which will be having children inside it. The children will be of type gesture detector. It will be having an on tap parentheses, keeping it null as of now. Next, adding a child of type padding, having a padding of edge insets dot only, and the value of this only will be from right 10. So right 10, saving it. Now after this padding, I'll be adding an icon of type added, so here it is, and child cut icons dot edit, and after this I'll be adding another gesture detector. After this gesture detector, so gesture detector, and we'll be having an on tap inside it as well, keeping null as of now. And I'll add a child of type icons dot delete, so it will be removing the item from our particular task list or to-do list, and it will be adding the item inside that second column which we are having, or in the second table which we are having. And I'll add some colors to this icon as well, so the color will be colors dot red, and the size will be equal to 30. Adding a comma here and here as well. Now let's move to the next widget which we'll be having. So After this row and this particular row, we need to add the widget in this column. So I'll add a padding over here. The padding will be having padding. The padding will be having a padding of edge insets dot only, and it will be from left of value 8, top of value 4, and bottom of value 4. Adding a child inside it. So child, and the child will be of type container, and the container will be having a text inside it. The text will be displaying date and time, so we need to create that function display date time. It will pass the index inside that function, and after this we need to add some styles. So I'll add it, text style, font weight. The font weight will be equal to font weight dot w500. Saving it. It is displaying, so one error is here. Now this we need to create, adding some letter spacing as well. Letter spacing of value 1.2. We'll be creating this function, so don't need to worry about it. Let's work on the floating action button. So the floating action button is of type floating action button. I haven't added something inside this on press, so we need to add that as well, and rest all the things I have kept same. So it is having a tooltip and a child. Now let's work on all the functions which we need for this particular application. So the first function which we need for this app is the clear text input. So it will be triggering, or it will be like working with the controller which we have named as my controller 1 and my controller 2, and on the basis of that it will be deleting the text of those particular text fields which we are having on a particular tab or on a particular gesture made. So what it will do is my controller dot clear, copying it, pasting it, changing it to my controller 2 dot clear. Now we'll be having a making list function widget. So widget making list, we'll pass query rows to it. So query rows, and after it I'll return a list view dot builder inside it of the item count as 3, and item builder will be having a context and an index. Let me rename it to context and index, and after it we'll be returning nothing, so keeping it as blank. I guess we won't be using it much. Let's see if it is useful or not, else we'll be removing this particular function. Now we need to create that display date time function which we had above. So this function will be returning a string. Display date time will be its name, and it will be taking an index. We'll initialize a variable name as date to be returned, adding a semicolon. We'll have a date time variable of name date, which will be equal to date time dot parse. So it will be parsing the current date, and we need to pass the formatted string. So in what format we want the date to be. So we'll have underscore query row. So we'll check if a particular condition, for a particular condition, and if it equals to you, then we'll be returning the date in some particular format, else we'll be returning the date in some other format. So query rows index and date time dot substring. So it will be taking the first character of that particular string. So we have passed 0 and 1, so 0 will be included and 1 won't be included. So it will be checking if it is equals to capital U, then we need to return this, else we need to return this. So what we'll be doing is we'll copy it from here, and after this question mark we'll paste this and change this 1 to so we'll delete this 0 and 1, and in place of it we'll write 8, and we'll paste it after the colon semicolon as well. So we'll paste it after this as well. So the second condition will be displaying 6 substrings inside it, adding a colon here. Now next thing which we need to do is we need to return a particular thing out of it. So return, we need to basically return a string. So while assign date to, we return to this. So it will be of a type string, adding a semicolon. It is still showing us an error. Display date time, display date time. Now we need to pass the string inside this particular character. So I'll add a dollar sign, and inside the dollar sign adding these braces, and inside it we need to pass we need to check this particular condition. So I'll copy the condition from here and paste the condition inside it. So let me do it quickly. Where it is dot parse, so copying it from here, C V, so it is displaying somewhat like this. Next, adding some text as well. So this will be a formatted string which will be displaying. So date dot day, so date is from here, you can see, and date dot day. Next we need to add a dash, date dot month, date dot year at dash dollar date dot month dash dollar dash dollar date dot year space at dollar date dot r dollar close, and then we need to add the minutes and seconds as well. So where it is, let me move from back side, date dot r, and after adding this and dollar, adding this again, dollar date dot seconds, second I guess, and date dot minute. So this is a string which will be returned and will be set to this particular text which we are having over here. So we had this text above. Now let's work on the next function which we will be using inside our app. So that function will be named as delete item, and we'll have an index of item inside it. It will be of type async, and inside this async we'll be getting the values of query rows, or we'll be like changing the value of query rows, and we'll be assigning it back to await. So this value will be equal to await database helper, I guess B is small for database helper, per dot instance dot query all, and it will be querying all the values from my table. And after the values are being queried, we'll again we'll await for a particular thing to happen. So await database helper dot instance dot delete, so it will be deleting the particular index of item which we are having. So index of item which we are having over here, adding a semicolon. Again we'll query the value of this. Again we'll query this particular thing so that the query rows is updated after it, and we'll set state this as well so that it is updated, so the state of this particular thing is updated throughout our app. So query rows, adding a semicolon, it is missing something. It is missing a parentheses, I guess. Let's see what it is missing. Error is here. It is expecting. Let me Control Z and see what took place. Set state. Adding this over here and underscore query rows again. Placing this over here. Yeah, so this was for the delete item function. Now let's create the last function for this particular screen or this particular main.dart file. So it will be named as add item to completed table function, and we'll be passing a type of map, string and dynamic inside it, closing this, and it will be of type item JSON. J needs to be capped, and in it we'll print some text, or we'll print what function it is, add item to completed table. So it will be recognizing, or it will be telling us that we are inside this particular function. So for now keeping it blank, so we are not doing anything inside it. Now let's work on all the on tap things which we are having in session. So let me see what all things we need to do. The first thing which we have already completed, the init part, the dispose part. We have already set the on tab for the actions part as well. Now inside our container we need to set the on tab for this screen. So this gesture detector, let me add a TODO here. So for this gesture detector, what it will be doing is it will be taking us to completed items. Next, moving forward, it will be taking us to completed item. This is checking the condition and displaying the widgets on the basis of that. And after this we are having a gesture detector over here. So I guess this is for the added button. To do added button gesture detector, copying it, pasting it over here. Delete button is already over here. Now let's start working on this first gesture detector which we are having, like for this added button gesture detector. So when we are clicking on this button, on this on tab, what will be happening here is we'll be setting the state of some things which we are having inside our application. So it needs to be set state, passing another parenthesis, and this, adding a semicolon, and inside it we'll initialize the value, or we'll change the value of to update ID to the particular ID which we want to update. So we have a variable name as to update ID, which will be equals to the ID whichever we want to update inside our app. So query rows, we'll get the index of that particular thing, and we'll then obtain the ID. So if you have watched yesterday's session, you must be knowing that each item inside our table has a particular ID attached with it. So that ID is of type primary key, and we'll change the edit visibility, and we'll be checking if it is equals to false. Then we need to perform something, and after it we need to change the value of visible to false. Let's change this. Let's change the value of edit visibility to true, and then underscore edit visibility to false. It is showing us an error. Let me copy it, paste it, underscore visi BLE. Yes, it needs to be, so edit visible. So I guess we have completed this particular part of this gesture detector. So let me delete it from here. Now let's move towards the delete gesture detector which we had. And inside it, what we'll be doing is, first thing which we'll be doing is we'll be adding an item to completed table. So inside the item JSON, what we'll pass is underscore query rows. So it will be passing the query row of that particular item of that particular index on which we have clicked, and after it we'll initialize a variable named as int I, and we'll have an await which will be database helper.instance. So it will insert the particular value which we want to have inside our application. So the table name will be equal to completed item, so we'll be inserting the value inside the completed item, and the row will be equal to, or the row will be of type a JSON, adding a semicolon over here, making it as a type of async so that the await error goes away. Now inside this parentheses we need to add database helper dot column name. So the dot column name value will be equal to underscore query rows and index along with it, and inside it we need to add the name. Next thing which we need to add is copying it, pasting it again. So database helper dot column name 2 will be equal to query rows index. In place of name we need to pass date time, and we'll be pasting it again. Database column name 3 will be equal to we'll be deleting this part, and in place of date time dot now dot to string, and after this particular thing has taken place we'll be saving it, and after this int or after this instance part this thing is being inserted, we'll delete this from this particular my table table which we are having. So delete, we are having a delete function here. So where it is here, delete item, we need to pass this particular thing which we have passed here. So delete item underscore query rows, it will be taking index and the ID as well, so underscore ID, adding a semicolon here. So this will be deleting the item whatever we want to be deleted, and it will be added inside the completed item table. Now let's move towards the floating action to do widget which we have, or on press which we have. So it is of a type async. Now whenever we will be clicking on it, it will be checking if the controller length or of the length of the text is greater than 0. So we'll check if my controller dot text dot length is greater than 0, and if it is so, then do this particular thing, copying it. Let's not copy it for now, let's add the things which we want inside it. So we have a variable I, we'll await, and we'll insert the particular things inside our table. So database helper dot insert insert, it will be taking the name of the table, my table, and along with it will be taking a type of JSON thing. It is still showing us an error, so I guess we need to add instance over here, instance. Now I guess the error will be fixed. Now copying the table name or the column names which we had from here, so that we don't need to type it again, copying it, pasting it over here. So for the it is showing us an error for this, so we need to remove this from here. Or let's do one thing, let's remove this particular part. So let's delete this particular part, let's add this here, so this error goes away. Now for the column name thing, what we need to do is my controller dot text, we need to add it over here, my controller dot text, and for the column 2, database helper dot column name 2, it is showing, I guess it is missing a R, my controller name 2 will be assigned to added. So it will be adding a particular value, so telling the user that this was added on this particular value day or this particular instance of time. So date time dot now, and we'll be saving it. So this will be done when we are clicking on the save and the length of this particular thing is greater than 0. Now let's just add it to the updated thing as well. So this will be taking place when the length of that my controller 2 is greater than 0. So let's move out of this if condition. If my controller 2 dot text dot length is greater than 0, then we'll be having int updated id, and it will be equals to await database helper dot instance dot update. So it will be updating, and inside it we need to pass the data. So I guess the columns will be same as we had above. Let me add this over here. Let me copy the columns which we had above. So we'll be having 3 columns as we added above, and I need to add it where the floating action button is. Yes, so here it is. Now I'll remove this text for the column 1. So the column 1 will be equal to update id. So the column id will be equal to update id. Oh, I have missed a thing over here, so we don't need this particular thing. Deleting it. Column name will be equal to my controller 2 dot text. The column 2 name will be changed from this to a particular string saying updated $datetime dot now. In place of it is saying that unterminated, now the error has gone away. Now we need to add one more thing. So database helper dot so the column id which we want is column id, and it will be equal to update id which we have used above, or which we have got above. So this is which we have initialized above, so it will be equal to that. Here it is showing an pop-up for that. So this is the particular thing which will be happening when we are either clicking on that particular floating action button. So it will be checking 2 different conditions for 2 different things which we are having. Once we are out from this if statement, we'll query the values from that particular table which we are currently having. So we'll assign the values inside query rows. So list, it will be having map of type string dynamic, and the name will be equal to query rows. We'll have an await database helper dot instance dot query all, passing the name of the table which is my table, and after it await set state, and inside it underscore query rows equal to query rows, semicolon at the last, and I guess we need to add a semicolon here as well. Now the things are fine for this, and after this set state is completed we need to clear the input. So I'll run clear text input function over here, adding a semicolon at last. Let's wait for the save to take place and the hot reload as well, and after it we'll try to add something to our application. So when I click on this button, it will be displaying me with a text field over here, so I can add whatever item I want. So I'll add task 1 over here. Let's wait for the keyboard to appear. So it is missing a T. I'll add it as well. When I click on this button, it will be adding that particular task. So it is showing an error. String has no instance method. Substring added this dot substring. So it might be providing us with an output in the debug console. So my home page, let's see where it is displaying us with an error. Let me search for dot substring. So wherever class no instance substring receiver added. These are the only 6 places where we are using the substring part. So let's see why it is showing us an error. So the 01 part is correct. We are also having dot sub. We have used capital S everywhere, so control F2 by selecting this, and sub string, so it will be small s for each of these, saving it and hot reload taking place. Let's see if this fixes the error. Yeah, so this fixes the error, and now you can see that it is displaying as the task which we have added inside our application. So whenever I will be clicking on this, it will be replacing the text field, and it is showing us that we can edit or we can enter the new text whatever we want to replace, and we want that task to or the text to be appear in place of this task one. It is also showing that I can add a new item by clicking on the plus icon on the top. Let's replace this task one with new task one text, and when I click on this button, it will be replacing the text with new task one text. So this was for the first screen, or for the like how you can add a new item inside this application. When I will be clicking on this delete button, it will be deleting this particular item from our like task list or from the to-do app list. So this is for how you can add an item and how you can delete an item from this to-do list. So the thing now what we have to do, or what is remaining for the app, is that how we can see the completed item. So first we need to do is we need to navigate to this completed items page. Now inside the main.dart file, what I'll do is I'll remove the last to do which we are having. I have completed this, so let me remove this as well. Now let's move towards the last to do which we are having. So it needs to take us to or navigate us to the completed item screen. So navigator dot push, it will take a context builder of material. I guess it will be taking a material page route over here. I'm not sure, let me see it. Yeah, so it will be taking a route material page route, and it will take a builder inside it. Builder will be having an arrow function, and it will be taking us to completed item screen over here. Let's wait for the screen to the pop-up to be displayed. Pressing control space so that it appears a bit quickly. So we need to add a underscore over here as we are passing anything. So let me save it. So when we'll be clicking on this button or this widget, it will be taking us to the completed items screen. I guess it is showing us an error. No, so that was an exception because of the widgets. So there are no widgets inside this particular screen, so it was showing us an exception over there. Now let's move towards the completed items part. So we are having mostly similar things like we had inside the main.dart file. So we have two controllers, some variables which will be changing the value according to the code or according to the various different functions. We have init function or init state, which do the similar thing like it was doing inside the main.dart file. We have a disposer. One more thing which we are having extra is that handle click function. So this is for triggering this pop-up. So I have two different screens which will be triggered on the basis of this pop-up. So the about developer, and inside that the URL thing. So I won't be covering this in this particular session, so let's not move or discuss about it in deep. Next we are having this what we can say a scaffold widget with an app bar saying completed task text inside it. We have a flat action button which will be like this is the button, the three dot button, and inside it we have this about the developer pop-up which we are having, and it takes us to the thing. So let's directly move towards the body part of this particular app. So for the body part, the first thing which I'll add inside this completed item screen is that I'll be checking the condition for the edit visibility and for the visible. So let's check it. So underscore edit visibility, and if it is equals to true, we need to display padding, and inside it we'll be having a text field which will be saying that enter the text whatever you want to replace, and if it is not true it will be displaying us with a container. So for the true condition, what I can do is I can head to the main.dart file, and inside it I can copy this particular thing as mostly it is same. So control C, and inside completed item, after this control V, removing this as we are not terminating the things on not terminate it is showing us an error. Now for the visible part we'll be checking the condition again. So underscore visible, if it is equals to true, then we'll check the condition again, and if it is true it will be displaying us a text field with the hint text of enter new item, and if it is not true it will be showing us what we can say padding with some text saying add new item by clicking the plus button. So let me copy the conditions from the main.dart file only. Now copying these conditions and inside it pasting these conditions. Next we are having a expanded inside it. So expanded will be like mostly the same part. So let me copy the expanded as well, and then we'll be editing whatever part we are having different inside this. So copying the expanded part as well, and then pasting it inside this. Now for the expanded inside this particular app, inside this particular screen, we'll be having a container inside it. We'll be having a list view dot builder. We'll be checking if the value of query rows is equal to 0, then the length will be equal to 0, else the length will be equal to query rows dot length. We'll be having an item builder which will be returning a padding. The padding values will be same. We'll be having a card inside it with some column. And the column will be having the same cross-axis alignment. For the children of this column, we are having a padding, then a row, and this row is having children. So for this particular row, I guess we need to change some widgets. So let me delete all the things which are pre-stored inside this particular row. So where this row was ending, I guess it is ending over here. Also I have deleted some more items than the required ones. So copying it from here, gesture detector, this row is ending over here, and this yellow children box is ending over here. So copying it and that yellow box for this. So yeah, now inside this children of this row, what we need to add is we need to add an expanded. Yeah, so now inside this expanded I have passed query rows with the index, but we don't need to pass the query rows. We need to pass a child as text widget, and inside that we need to pass this. So I'll cut it for now, and I'll add a child which will be of a type text widget, and inside it I'll be passing query rows index. This T needs to be capital over here, and after this query row index, so we need to assign a name as well, so that it can display the name of that particular item which we are having inside the to-do list. We'll add some styles as well. So style will be of type text style. We will be having a color of colors dot red, and we'll be having a font size of 24, adding commas over here, saving it. Now after this we'll be having another widget inside our column, so where the column is starting, I guess here it is, and after this padding we need to have some more widgets inside it. So we have added this padding over here, and then we'll be adding another container. So let me add that padding. It will be having padding, which is the compulsory thing. Edge insets dot only, and inside only padding of 8 from left, and padding of 4 from top, and padding of 4 from bottom. After this, adding a child of container, which will be having a child of text, and this text will be showing, or this text will be like getting the output from a particular function which we'll be creating. So it will be named as completed on, and it will take the index. We will be creating this function, adding some styles to it. So style text style, and font weight dot w300, and letter spacing inside it. So letter spacing will be of 1.05. Saving it so that the typo goes away. Now we need to have floating action button as well inside this. So the reason why we are having this floating action button is because when we are clicking on this floating action button, we'll be able to edit the text which we'll be having inside our application, and we'll be able to clear the fields or the text field which we are having inside our application. So let me add a floating action button over here. It will be of type floating action button. Inside it we'll be having on pressed, keeping it null for now. We'll assign a tooltip to it. It needs to be tooltip, which takes a string saying show me the value, and after this a child to it. The child will be of type icon, icons dot text underscore fields. And now let's add this on press thing. So when we'll be clicking on this particular floating action button, it will be printing underscore query rows, and after this it will be awaiting and setting the state. And inside this set state we need to pass something, but before this let me add async over here. Now this await error will go away, and inside it I guess we don't need this particular thing, so so we won't be needing this. Let me Control Z, removing this await. And after that the only thing we'll be doing here is we'll be clearing the text input over here. I guess this clear text input is coming from the completed icon. So we have this clear text input, which is similar to the one which we had in the previous file, the main.dart file. Now let's create some more function which we will be needing inside this app. So I'll make a widget function which will be named as making list. So I guess it will be similar to the one we had created in this part. So making list, it will be returning an item builder with the count of 3 and inside it. So we were not using it right, and let me add it here as well in case if we are using it. So this was like I have created this function when I was trying to implement the part inside my application. We'll be having a start a string function which will be returning a string. So the function will be named as display date time. So it will be mostly similar to the one which we had inside our main.dart file. So it is returning a string, name is display date time, and it is taking an index. We are having initializing a string variable. We are having a variable named as date, which is of type date time. We'll be parsing the value and checking if the substring is equal to 0, and if it is so, then we'll be like assigning the values inside this date time variable, and at last we will be returning the particular code which we are having here. So it will be returning like substring and on, date, time, and so on. So let me just copy it. So I'll copy this particular complete function and I'll go to my this file and paste it over here. Now let's create this function which we are having, the completed on function. Let me fix the typo. Completed on function, it will be returning a string as we are having the output of this particular function inside the text field. Completed on index, it is taking an index. We'll be having a string which will be named as date to be returned, adding a semicolon. We'll be having a date time which will be parsing the date, so it will be getting the complete date time from it. So let me just copy this part of code from here, copying it, and I'll paste it inside this, and in place of this date time, what I can add is completed on and adding a semicolon at the last so that the error goes away. It is still showing us an error over here. Let's see why it is showing us an error. Expecting this, I guess, yeah. So for a parse it is expecting a parentheses over here, and at last we need to return a string. So I'll add a string return statement, and this will be returning or assigning the date. So we are having this variable here and we'll be assigning and returning together. So we'll be having completed on $date.day and adding a dash after it. Let me add a semicolon over here, and after it dollar deleting this date.month, and after this date.year with a dash, dollar date.year, and then adding at, so that the time also appears over here, at dollar and then date dot second, date dot minute, and date dot hour. Now one more thing which we need to do is we need to add an add item to completed table. So it will be like basically printing the thing. So I guess if you want, you can like add the function and you can check if all the things are working fine or not by printing the out statements. We generally use breakpoints inside our code, but like if familiar or if you are some issues working with the breakpoints, so you can also like prefer printing the code over here and then displaying it inside your application. I guess it is missing a double quote inside this, so let me save it. Let's wait for the hot reload to take place. So you can see here that when the hot reload has taken place, it is displaying me with this completed task which we were having earlier. So let me get back to this screen. When I click on this plus button, it will be displaying me with a text field so that I can add a new item inside my application. So I'll add a task 10 over here. When I click on this button, it will be appearing over here. So it is a to do task which we need to do. When I click on this edit icon, it will be replacing the earlier text field and changing the hint text to enter text to replace. So when I write on the task 10 in place of task 10, and when I click on this button, it will be changing the text or it will be updating the text for the task 10 with this new particular task, which is the task 10. You focus on this as well. So the timings are also appearing over here. and you can see when this was added or when this was updated. And when I click on this delete button, it will be removed from this particular screen and it will be gone, or it will be displayed inside the completed item. Let me click it so that these also goes away. And when I click on this completed item, you can see here that we are displayed with the task 10. So you can see that it says completed on 22/2/2021 and the time is 11:15. So you can see here the time is 11:15 and we have completed and added this particular task inside the completed task field just now. And similarly, yesterday previously, like I made when I was working on this app, I have added this task, so you can see that it also shows the completed time when it was completed. When I click on this button, it displays me with all the items which are available inside the text field or inside this particular project here in the form of a JSON, so that I can have a look at in the debug console like what all items are present inside our application. One more thing which we are having inside it app, but I am not like preferring or not coding in this part of this section, is that this about the developer. So you also can add this particular thing inside your application once you have created or once you have worked on adding this particular or completing this particular app. So what this about the developer takes it takes you generally to the screen where you are displaying or you are telling the people about yourself. So I have displayed my some text over here and I have added some of my profiles over here. So when I'll be clicking on any of the particular icons, so suppose I have clicked on the YouTube icon, it is taking me to the YouTube, and as the YouTube is not updated, it is asking me to update. Let's head back and try to open some more or some different thing. So now when I'll be clicking on this GitHub icon, it will be taking some time for this to load. I guess the emulator has stuck, so it's back now. When I click on this GitHub icon, it is taking me back as I have added a pop function on this GitHub particularly. When I click on this Twitter icon, let's see, I guess it will be opening a website over here. So yeah, you can see over here that it is opening a web browser or a website inside a web browser, which will be taking people to my Twitter account over here. So let me accept and continue. So you can also add all the things inside, like these things inside your application. So let me tell you how I have added it. So I'll just be walking through the code, and you folks have to add this particular thing all by yourself. So I have used firstly the SQLite for handling the database path, the path provider for handling the path of the database, and Flutter web browser for opening all the links inside a web browser. So these are all my accounts. So if you need a link to any of these accounts, then you can find the code or the link to those accounts in the description box with the link of the project which we have created in this session. So you can take a look at the code, but make sure to not copy the code. You can just take reference from the code, and then you can work on this particular application by yourself and try to implement or add your creativity inside this app. So this was for the TODO app which we have created today in today's session. So make sure to implement and add your creativity, and also post all the things which you have made in the Discord server, so that more and more people can take inspiration from you and can also work on some similar projects which you are making. And this was all for this session. Thank you all for joining in.